Good morning. Nice of you guys to drop by.
What a piece of junk. What are you talking about?
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Look, don't worry. Everything's gonna be fine. Trust me.
I don't know what all this trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault. Don't get technical with me.
This bickering is pointless.
Don't everybody thank me at once.
I don't know where you get your delusions, laser brain.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
How could you even say that?
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, come on. Everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Would you get going, you pirate?
Get in there, you big furry oaf! I don't care what you smell!
I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
If what you've told me is true, you will have gained my trust.
I like the sound of that.
Get a shuttle ready.
I don't know. Fly casual.
Shuttle Tydirium, what is your cargo and destination?
Transmission commencing.
Hey everybody, thanks again for tuning in to the Shuttle Tydirium podcast. We are the mothership of Casual X-Wing. I am your host, Captain Jim Chadwick, also known as Hey Chadwick on the forums. I do have sitting next to me, Phil Mead, my co-pilot. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing great. We're celebrating Emperor Palpatine's first 100 days in office today. It's an empire-wide celebration, looking at some of his greatest achievements yet, like dissolving the Senate, and building up the military. The Imperial Navy has never been stronger.
Yes.
Never been stronger. They're only
Fantastic.
winning now.
I love it.
He says that the rebellion is about to be crushed. Any day now. His secret plan to destroy the rebellion is about to come to fruition, whatever that means.
Don't listen to the fake news sites.
Yeah, they're also rebels. And will be
Propaganda.
Yeah. Propaganda.
Cool.
And the MOFs are still working on tax reform, but that's coming down the pipe soon.
Right. Right, and they'll pay for that wall. But all right, I do have Biff, our chief engineer. How you doing, Biff?
Hey, this is great. I'm doing most excellent. The whole funding stream to the glorious empire has been beefed up. It's been funded. So I got a postcard in the mail the other day, and supposedly because of the increase in funding, we can now do the maintenance and periodic checkup on JBot. So I think we're good to go. We might be able to squeeze in a couple of mods. We'll kind of see how this goes. So I think JBot, we're going to be spending some quality time together for the next couple of weeks.
You're supposed to do maintenance on JBot?
Apparently, there was something about long overdue on the postcard. I don't know, but we'll have to look into this a little bit more.
Let's see if we can get Siri installed. I do like this plus 50% to our budget to the Imperial Navy. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right,
Rocking.
so we do also have JBot, our chief protocol droid. How you doing, JBot?
I'm doing well. I think our engineer misread the postcard. It didn't say anything about overdue maintenance. I'm fairly certain it said overdue tax dues that we had on the shuttle. So if the passengers notice our Ewoks being a little bit more pokey about getting tips and things for delivering drinks, just remember it's all in the name of the Empire and tax reform.
Yeah, everybody wanted tax reform. Excellent. All right, so I do want to go straight into a captain's question, and this was prompted by something JBot posted to the Facebook group, and it's basically, if you were not playing X-Wing, the X-Wing miniatures game, what would you be playing? Would you be playing anything? Is this your first game? Is this your first minis game? Would you just be going back to watching golf? I don't know. So how about you, Phil?
It's a good question for me because I transitioned to X-Wing after leaving Warhammer 40K.
Did you leave 40K or did 40K leave you?
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, I know that. I've been telling people that the old line, I love 40K, I'm just not in love with 40K.
Yeah. I still loved the universe and everything, but the game just became too difficult to keep up with and not rewarding enough, and incredibly expensive, and all those things. It just it made sense to part ways. But so it's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't have left it as quickly if X-Wing hadn't been there to take up the slack. But assuming that I would have, I think that at this point, I'm kind of a little interested in Rune Wars, that other miniatures game that FFG has been advertising.
I've been joking with the people at the game store, because I don't know if it just came out or if they just got the first box of it or something. But
it just came out.
Yeah, I was showing it to one of the guys at the game store, and I said I should take this to Jim because it's almost his old school fantasy. It's the blocks of troops, but you use X-Wing style templates to move.
Yeah,
so,
I think it has like hidden commands mechanics where you program the commands into your units and then reveal them during the turn, sort of like in X-Wing. So
right.
It's like a mix between Warhammer Fantasy Battle and X-Wing.
Yeah, and I was joking that if I showed it to Jim, we might end up with a Rune Wars podcast before it's all said and done. I don't know how good the game is, but it feels like it goes right into Jim's wheelhouse of two play styles.
I had a friend who said, I just recently bought all the stuff for this new board game called Rune Wars. I was like, board game? What are you talking about? A new mini game? He's like, it's a board game right here on their website. I went to their website and I looked under mini games and I found it. And I was like, wait a second. I went under board games and I found it.
Oh.
And he's like, well, you play on a particular special map that they give you.
Yeah, it's they're two different games with the same universe.
Is it two different games?
What?
Yes. Yeah, it's two different games, but they're the same universe. So the board game is like a straight board game version. Because when I first looked, I was like, ooh, Rune Wars is coming out. So I went to their website, did the same thing. I was like, this doesn't look like anything I would be interested. Oh, I mean, other than just my general board game fandom. And then I went back to whatever website that prompted me there. I'm like, man, what have I missed? Like, all these people are excited about figures and dug around more on their website and found it. So it is a little confusing. They probably need to address that somehow.
Right. So are the characters or the pieces represented in both the board game version as well as in the miniatures, or are they totally separate?
You're asking me. I have no idea.
Okay, all right.
I think it's more like the board game existed first, and set up the kind of universe, and you played as very very board game style rules, and somebody said we want to expand this into a line of like X-Wing style battling, but I'm not sure. I don't think the figures come painted. You'd have to really dig into it, but I don't think the figures for the fantasy game come painted like X-Wing does.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. They don't come painted.
Hang on one second.
But yeah, it does look neat, Phil. I've never been a huge fantasy guy, even when Warhammer Fantasy was out. More because I felt like I might as well be just moving postcards and like note cards around on the table with like one figure on it and a die behind it for how many figures are actually on it.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the tactics and stuff. I was perfectly okay with the tactics. I just didn't. I could never get my head around it. I was more of a skirmish guy with 40K than I was anything else. So I feel your pain there. We could make this a 40K podcast with me talking, but about it just in general, because I've played it since 2nd edition, and I've played it. It was Necromunda was my introduction to miniature gaming. Period. So that was 2nd edition age. So.
See, I'll say that Rune Wars looks interesting, except I want to be able to use all my current minis. I don't want to have to spend a few $100 to get a new army. It's like I have hundreds of fully painted minis, and I just don't want to buy them all over again,
Well, I'm sure you could figure out a way, Jim, knowing your nature to
my craftiness.
Purchase a bunch of aftermarket Rune Wars bases and glue your figures on top of it.
Yeah, some sort of base, and then it'd be the dial. I'd make my own little cardboard homemade dials, or
I believe in you. I trust in your ability.
All right, so J-Bot, what about you?
Okay, so you were saying before the thing that you thought you would know what that would be. What did you think it would be?
Well, you posted to the Facebook group how there is a new what is it? Fallout minis game coming, and I know you like Fallout, the little console PC game. So I was thinking you'd want to get into the Fallout minis game.
Oh, I mean, not knowing anything about it, my answer is yes. But I guess I looked at this question more of if X-Wing never existed, what would I be playing? It's tough to say because I have a bit of a board game addiction. And yesterday, I know this is going to come out in a couple weeks, but International Board Game Day was April 29th this year. So I spent the entire day playing board games, and normally board game day at the store we play at is Thursday night, which is also our X-Wing night. So the whole time I'm over there playing X-Wing and I'm getting my butt beat in, I'm looking over people's shoulders at, giant Cthulhu monsters on a table fighting each other, and all these people with goofy like stuff going on. I'm like, man, I wish I could be over there with those guys, not getting my butt beat in playing. I mean, it's a board game kind of resurgence. It's very much been a renaissance of board games over the past like 4 or 5 years. And I have a feeling I would not be focused on one game because I got burnt out of 40K, kind of like Phil did. I would probably be just in general board game heaven playing all this stuff. And I mean, it doesn't matter how simple the game is to how complex it is. I'm willing to play it. I mean, one of the guys yesterday won because they were giving away games, a game called Here Kitty Kitty. And I'm like, you never know. That game could be the best game you've ever played in your life. He's like, it's for like 5-year-olds. I said, but it could be the best game you've ever played in your life. And you're just going to leave it on a shelf or throw it away or give it to somebody. And he's like, I can't believe you'd play it. I'm like, dude, I'd play every game in here. And my excuse for that is I never played board games growing up as a kid, ever. Like no Monopoly, no Candyland, no any of that stuff. We just didn't have those in my family. And so I feel like I'm making up for it now in old age, playing anything I can. And I didn't win a single game yesterday playing. I got my butt beat in all of those, but I had so much fun doing it because it was so different. The strategies are different. The way you think through the games are different than X-Wing. It was just a lot of fun. So I would probably be doing that.
I'd say you didn't miss much with those board games. Like I hate Monopoly. I have never even come close to finishing a game of Monopoly. That to me is like the best example of the worst type of a board game there is.
Yeah, I'd say I've played Monopoly. Don't get me wrong. I played it, I think, in my 20s is when I actually got around to playing my first game. The first board game, like actually on a board I ever played was Axis and Allies. So that gives you
did play the heck out of that.
It took me to get into games. My family just isn't a board gaming kind of family, so.
But Risk was just one of those. It took forever. Then it always came down to that one guy in Australia. It was just like, it was fun for a little bit, but I don't know. Axis Allies was good, but I kind of agree with you. But let's go to our chief engineer Biff before I answer.
So I'm kind of in a little bit of a similar boat as J-Bot. I too have a pretty healthy general game board addiction. I may not go so far as to say that I would play anything because there are some genres or types that I find it hard to get into. But I will preface that with the right crowd, I will certainly play any game because what I very much like about the whole board game thing is you are bringing people together, and if you've got the right dynamic, it can be an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Even if the game is weak, it's just and J-Bot's comment about a kid's game can be a lot of fun for adults. That is so true. There are a couple kid games out there that they're simplistic in nature, but there's a little bit of strategy and you get the other guy, and it can be a great time with a bunch of adults. It can be light, but just hilarious at the same time. So I've got a closet that's just chocked full of games. Board games are pretty intrinsic to what we do as a family here within the Denzer household. So if I were to make a call as if X-Wing was not around, what game do I think I would be playing with like my core game group or with the guys that I normally play? I would have to pick the Heroes of Normandy D game system. I think Devil Pig Games are the publisher or the developer of that game. It's kind of a minis game, but there are no minis. It's set within the. I know it's
it
weird.
uses little card chits, doesn't it? Because I've eyeballed that so many times. I'm like, man, this looks so neat.
What I like about it is the game is set within the Second World War. It focuses on the European theater from D-Day on, and it's a cartoonish tactical infantry game. And what's really great in my mind is that the game doesn't take itself overly serious. The mechanics and so forth, although detailed, are fairly straightforward. So if you're totally into like ASL and you want that level of detail, this probably isn't going to be for you.
Right. If for those who don't know, ASL is Advanced Squad Leader.
Sorry.
It's one of those ye old timey games. And when did that game come out? The 80s, 60s? I mean, it's been.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's a classic game, isn't it?
Yes. And and that ASL does a great job of getting down into the detail of, hey, if you're using this type of machine gun, what are your chances of it being jammed? That type of stuff. It gets into a lot of detail.
It's like, I'm firing down at your squad. Oh, wait, did you check wind gauge?
That sounds like the game they were playing in one of the comics I read from a long time ago, where they were spoofing gamers whose name I suddenly can't think of. But in a way, it sounds interesting, but at the same time, it's like, oh no, it's like feels like rules lawyer heaven.
Yeah. And I'm not. I love detail, but I just don't want to spend a bunch of time digging through a book. To me, it just kind of kills the game. But
the flow of game. That's one thing about X, except for that's gotten complicated lately. But that's one of the things that's great about it. It just goes whoosh.
So Heroes of Normandy, it doesn't take itself serious. There's a good amount of detail in it. It keeps the flow going with the game, and they build in these kind of special characters that they refer to as heroes, and they're very cartoonish. Oftentimes, they're based in some war movie that's very popular. So like there's the characters, spoofed characters from Band of Brothers, from Kelly's Heroes. What other war movies? Saving Private Ryan is in there. They're just kind of spoofs of those, and they're scenario based, so you can play the game pretty quick. They've got some campaigns and a huge amount of fan generated missions that you can access through the publisher's website. So I could totally see how I would be all in. I think I have every single expansion for that system. But kind of like a little bit of like what I've got with X-Wing running. So I could do anything, set up anything, and just have a great old time.
I mean, it makes me want to try it out during Gen Con, but I don't think we'll have time.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I mean, they even had like expansion packs that were just terrain and stuff, didn't they, Biff?
Yes, that's
mostly
correct.
Just terrain. I mean, how crazy is that for a card board game?
They had one expansion. I think it was bocage and cows. I think it was like hedgerows and then cows that you could set up that you could kill, and they become carcasses that you could get behind for cover. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah, every time I see, like, I wander through the store every Thursday. I always do a wander around the board game section of the store, and anytime I stop on it, I'm like, man, this looks like it'd be so much fun. Like just as a general goofy sort of break from X-Wing. But unfortunately, I don't know anybody until now who's actually ever played it.
Yeah. It's okay. So for mine, I have to admit, I don't know. I'd kind of opened myself up to the force to kind of let it happen because I have lots and lots of 15 millimeter World War II Germans mid-war. And the new Flames of War came out, but it's mostly African. I have only European mid-war, maybe stretched to late war, maybe a little bit early, but not African. Germans I could play. I got everything from armored cars to specialty half-tracks to like crazy everything, all painted. I'd love to find a game with those. I know there's a few people who play those. 20 millimeter Germans. I've got some of those, a bunch of those. I've got like hundreds of painted orcs and goblins and some other humans for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. There's a bunch of different games for those. There's the Ninth Age, which is the fan-made version, 9th edition. There's Kings of War. There's also a million board games to try out that like there's this every week. I've never quite gotten to. I know a lot about a lot of them, but I've never quite tried them. So part of the problem is will people play, and can they actually make it? Like I used to play Flames of War. It turns out it was me and another guy every Thursday. We're the only ones who would show up weekly, and everyone else could come like every other Saturday. But I got kids and family, and Saturdays are hard for me. So, you know, if I have Flames of War, but there's no one around to play it at the time I can play it, it's useless. So I'd kind of just wait and see what everyone else is playing and kind of pick up without spending a ton of cash to get into the next game and see what that would be. That's probably what I would do. Kind of open-ended. Like I played.
Yeah, the one thing wrong, I hate to say wrong, but the one thing that's happened with this renaissance of board games is that I think people who are ask me questions about, like, oh, I'm going to a board game convention, they have in their mind the $10, $15 Monopoly, $10, $15 Candyland, you know, the simple games. That's not the same board game as the $60, $70, $100 board games that they sell now. It's a completely different like pricing scale to what average people think. But so it's hard to even expand your giant list. I mean, I'm sure Biff, if he went there and counted the money that's in his closet of games, it would
let's not go there.
Yeah, it'd be astronomical. Because I do the same thing. Like my closet of games, I'm like, oh man, I don't even have that many, and I know I've spent a fortune on this stuff. Way more than X-Wing. So that's the one trouble with going away from X-Wing is still relatively cheap compared to almost everything out there. And so that's the one thing is, would I even be able to afford to play as much stuff outside of X-Wing if I
could even do D&D because I've got all the old modules and everything. I would probably I've been playing 5th edition with my son, and I like 5th edition. I think it's the best edition, and I could easily convert all the old modules, and I've got all the Living Greyhawk modules. Yeah, I've got everything. I've got so much content, like I wouldn't need to spend any money. So yeah, pretty excited about that. Not spending money is good.
What I've often done is when like we've got like a get together, or even like when my son has been invited for like a overnight sleepover. I will sometimes like I'll buy a game and send it with my son, and it's kind of like a gift to that family.
Oh, cool.
Or when we have like the gatherings or something, I'll bring one of my games over, and that price point that J-Brod's bringing up, I think is very, very true, because people are sometimes shocked that a game will cost $35, $40, $50. But if they play it, they get into the game, and then they're like, hey, you know, how could I get a copy of this? And you can introduce them to the price point after the experience. It's a lot easier to make the sale as in, hey, remember Monopoly. We'll compare that to this game, what you get component-wise, the interaction you've had with the family or the friends or whatever. It makes it a much easier sell that way than to hit them with the price point right up front. To me, it's get them in, let them experience it, and then either let them take the game or leave the game, or you point them in the right direction as to how they can get it with the price point. So
we have a card game that's been our best to kind of pull people in that are not gamers. It's called Lord of the Fries from cheap ass games, and the whole point is that you are a zombie in a food court in hell, and you're trying to get to the end of your shift, and you've got these various ingredients, and the restaurant can change, and you kind of roll on the menu to see what you get, or you can pick, and they have different like holiday menu or Fridays, the regular menu, and the names of the items are just totally stupid, and they will just make people laugh. Like, and if you're just having a few drinks and adults around, and kind of like you're like, what is this? The Patrick Swayze? It's 2 buns, you know. Or Donner on Blitzen. It's like a double stack burger. It's a holiday menu. It's it's easy to play, and it's hysterical, and it's something that's not Monopoly or something. And people who like, I even had one of my wife's friends. She realizes she gets really competitive in the games. She doesn't play a lot, but she's like, "This is so stupid. I could play it." She started playing and having a good time. Because she's like, I don't care if I win or lose. It's just dumb. So it's good to have like a bunch of these things. You can start sucker and pull people into the gaming world. So it's good.
What was that called again?
Lord of the Fries. In fact, they just redid it. It used to be like a really old version. This game company, Cheap Ass Games, was about the biggest cost hurdle to actually putting out games is the pieces. So a lot of them, they'd put out the rules or very, very cheap paper stuff, and then you would have to supply like your own dice and your own tokens.
Yeah, you just use crap from your junk drawer in your kitchen to play them. So.
Right, but then
they're gateway games.
But then their Lord of the Fries was so good. They had the deluxe edition where they actually printed them out in color and stuff. But we played it so much it got all chewed up, and so years later they actually now have like the new version. You can actually buy the different menu packs, and it's pretty cool. That's a very fun game.
Cool.
Like the new one we have is regular Fridays plus the Renaissance Festival.
I got to look into that.
It's very fun, and it's not too bad. All right. So now that we spent forever on a Captain's question that I didn't think would take too long, I will say one thing. I had an article published on FFG website.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. They approached me and asked me to do one of their 101 X-Wing 101. So spent $101 to make an X-Wing list. They wanted it from like a mission perspective. And I had a really hard time trying to figure out how to do that for one article. So I wrote one really long article that had one from the Rebel, one from the Imperial version, and they split it into two articles.
And just like our cheap pilot, he somehow came in at the lowest price out of all the ones so far.
But it's
how to
actually
save even more money.
It's actually really hard to do because, like, for the Imperials, I was looking at, I'd love to have a TIE bomber here. Ooh, so I get a TIE bomber. What ordnance comes in that? Nothing but a bunch of bombs. Crap! Like, you start like, I get the core pack, and then I can get the proton torpedo. What else can I do? And I just have to say that it was actually very challenging to come out with. Like the pick, you only got $101. You have to use the prices on their website, and you have to buy a core set based on the prices on their website, not the $20 for sale one that everyone always gets. And you got to come up with like a viable list, and it was actually a very interesting challenge. But I had fun with it, and I signed a non-disclosure agreement about it ahead of time, so it sucks so bad. Like something so cool happens, and you can't tell anybody.
That's the torture.
Yeah. Surprise. All right.
That's good. So do you need me to lower your seat a couple inches now up there?
No, well, because like by the time they finally published it, like it's kind of old news to me, so I'm okay with it.
I do have to compliment you because
might have to get him a bigger helmet though to fit around the ego.
Resize the helmet. But I picked up on the fact that you stayed true to form. You apparently made a mistake in the article.
I did.
I totally wanted to make a comment like, yes, you stayed to form by screwing something up. That's just how we do it on this podcast.
Well, yeah. I got used to Blake, Mr. X-Wing, in our area, and he played this list against me with a Segi, the K-Wing, that you can use the focus tokens, and he was using those for defense. And Blake knows his stuff. He's Mr. Tournament guy, and I haven't really flown Rebels or that K-Wing in particular, or any K-Wings really. And I went with it, and I thought that was a great list. I'm going to really kind of build off his idea. It turns out someone pointed out, a Segi only uses your focus tokens on offense. I was like, fudge ripple. I totally didn't catch that. I have been playing it wrong for a long time. So was Blake. Curse you, Blake. You made me look bad. All right.
No more articles for you.
No, I got one more coming. Already in the chute. But yeah, if I do one, I'll have to triple check everything.
That's good. Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
You're official. You are part of the FFG canon now.
Yes, I'm canon. All right, so what do we want to move on to next? I feel like I've been talking a lot. I know I kind of wanted to mention some stuff about J-Bot and I playing HotAC or HotAC, but I want someone else to talk for a while. Do we want to do B teams, or do you want to go into your segment, Phil?
I think I'll do my segment real quick here.
Okay.
So I want to do a quick mission design segment, and the topic is turn timers. or game timers. You know what I'm talking about? So these are the often it's like a pile of tracking tokens or something, and you take one off, and when you're done with the pile, the game is over. It's some sort of mechanic in a game to let you know when the game is over. And really, you know, even a conventional game of like Tournament X-Wing, in the tournament setting, has a turn timer. It's just the clock on the wall. You have like 60 minutes or 75 minutes to get done with your game. It's a little different than this, but they kind of exist in the tournament world too, and I think people don't like them in both contexts. I really dislike maybe like 90% of the turn counter mechanics that I ever see in a scenario.
Why do you dislike them?
So there's two main reasons. Reason number one is they feel very artificial. So what I mean by that is, if you're having like a space battle, you don't stop after, you know, you've shot at each other 5 times, and you just, you know, you don't like pick up the pieces and go home, right?
Timer's off.
Yeah.
Gotta go home.
And, you know, in some cases, it kind of feels like that's what's happening in the game. It's just, you know, the game arbitrarily just ends. And maybe that's for mechanical reasons. Maybe it's because, you know, whoever is making the scenario doesn't want it to last past, you know, 5 or 6 turns or whatever the amount of turns. You know, but often, you know, it just seems so artificial, right? And
right. Oh, sorry guys, my mom's here. I gotta go.
Yeah, yeah. Also, the other reason I don't like them is that it's very, very easy to forget to advance the turn counter. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. You guys feel the same?
We have never done that before.
Yeah, it's super easy to forget.
Easy.
Yeah, and then you have to you know, someone remembers the last minute. Maybe you go past it. You have to back calculate and guess what turn you're on, and that just, it takes you out of the game experience, and you can mess it up, and it can kind of negatively affect the game that you're playing.
I find it that I'll forget to do that if there is some trigger or modifier that's in the course of play that makes you go off and modify it, you know, change the timer, as opposed to at the end of a turn, you've got to change the timer. If there's something going on in the middle, that I usually forget about, so which can be harder than to backtrack and figure out, oh God, yeah. So now where should the timer be, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like timers. So the type of timer that I don't like is the type where you just have like a pile of tokens somewhere that you have to take one out, or you just are supposed to keep track. Those suck. They're very artificial. They're easy to forget. They don't add anything to the game other than just making you stop at after a number of turns. I do like timers that are a natural part of the mission. So I think one good example of this would be the mechanics in that Corvette mission where you're repairing the hyperdrive. Do you guys remember what that mission was called?
Oh gosh, no.
I don't off the top of my head, but when you were discussing this, the first thing that jumped in my head were actually 2 or 3 of the Corvette missions where the timer isn't always so much like a turn thing, but for example, like the Corvette, it's only going to take them so many turns to get from wherever they're at to wherever they need to be, whether it's off the board or charging a hyperdrive or something, where the game itself forces the timer forward just by spacing. Like this ship moving forward cannot be stopped. It will run off the board in whatever 8 turns, unless you just change that up by doing something crazy.
No, yeah, that's definitely a good timer too. Yeah, a ship moving off the table edge, something that you're never going to forget to do, essentially.
Right, like the Senator's shuttle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's semi-predictable. It's only going to take you so long, even if you're going slow, to get off the edge. So you can still plan the mission around that, and it gives the player a degree of control over how long the game is going to last. You can feel like you're, picking a strategy. Either I'm going to go slow and try and, hold out, reinforce, etc.
It gives choices.
Yeah, it gives you a strategic decision to make, and that's always a good thing to give a player in a scenario, because that's really what scenarios are all about. Is that you're giving players additional choices to make during an X-Wing game, and hopefully they're interesting choices. I was thinking about the mission 3B in the Corvette campaign. That's Punch It, and that's where they have this hyperdrive card where you're adding tokens to it, and you're rolling dice every turn to add tokens, etc. The rules for adding tokens to that are a bit convoluted, because you're also like taking tokens off, and I think everybody got that rule wrong the first time. So,
yeah, we definitely screwed
theoretically this is a good turn counter, but in practice I think the rules for this came out too awkward and were hard to understand. But theoretically that's not a bad one, because it's your mission is thematically all about repairing the hyperdrive. You're hopefully should not be trying. You hopefully should be able to remember that as a rebel player.
Right, you're not going to overlook it.
Yeah, it could be better. I think it would be better if it had a more direct impact on the game as things were going on, as the mission was progressing. One similar turn timer that I've used in the past is also with the Corvette. So I designed a Corvette escaping from a rebel base type mission a while back. So the idea is the Corvette is evacuating the rebel base, and the timer that I've built into that scenario is that at the end of every turn you can transfer rebel team cards from the base to the Corvette. So every turn you're making the Corvette stronger. And when there's no more teams left on the asteroid base, then you can undock and start moving and run for the board edge. So I think that it helps people remember things easier if it helps them, right?
Yeah, it makes me think of one of the last HotAC missions we did, where you've got the Bright Hope GR75, and you can let it do an action where it rolls a die and tries to get another repair token to its hyperdrives, or it can do a coordinate and give an action to someone else. So it's one of those, like, do you save yourself with the ship, or do you try to get the ship out of there? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good one too. Building it into the actions of the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah. In general, things are just easier to remember if they help you out. It's easier to remember to eat dinner every day because you get hungry.
Right.
I find it's harder to water the plants because they don't. I don't care if. It doesn't hurt me if the plants are too thirsty, if their soil is dry.
You dirty bastard, you! How could you do that to the plants? No, I know what you mean.
So that's the basic theory. Let's see. I think I had another. Yeah. Okay. So my main examples of good turn timers are where that mission where you're transferring the team cards onto the Corvette, and then when they're all done, the Corvette can leave. Also, another solid turn timer is just ships moving off a certain table edge. So the ship starts in a certain place and has to go to a certain place by the end of the game. That's also a very good one. Yeah, that's basically it. Just remember, think about if you're designing a mission and you need a turn timer in there, try and make it part of the mission thematically and mechanically, and try to make it something that people are not going to forget. And make sure that it doesn't feel artificial.
Yeah. I know there's a number of people who like to try missions and who really appreciate your, these segments that you do fill. And I thought it was pretty cool. Like this past week on the Facebook group, someone posted, "Hey, my kids and I watch Rebels. I want to come up with a mission that's about the Phoenix Squadron A-wings heading into Concord Protectia space, and they're getting shot down by Fenn Rau."
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was you had to, and then they were trying to come up with a mission concept. And what was cool is even before I even read it and got a chance to respond, there were a bunch of other people who had already come up with ideas.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to see. Like, it's not just us saying things; that everyone's out there helping out and coming up with these cool mission ideas. And then he posted back that he had tried it, and so it was, he had like a satellite token to show that you've got to go far enough in to show that you tried to work with these guys before you could even attack them, and they can fully attack you until you get to that spot. And it was he said he had a lot of fun. It was a pretty good mission, and so I liked that idea, and that there's other, like, it's not just us, but if you've got an idea, post it to the Facebook group. People will help you flesh it out, and then you can post back, and they'll be like, "Oh, could you send me the rules?" That kind of a thing. So I thought it was just overall pretty cool that there are people making up interesting missions and such and sharing them, and that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool to see that. I didn't have time to really take a deep dive and look at that, unfortunately, but it's actually been a pretty hectic week. But it does sound like it's an interesting problem, because that encounter was the rebels just trying to talk to the Concord Dawn guys, essentially.
Yep.
So
yeah.
I imagine that without reading what they did, I think the way I would maybe try to design it is that the rebels essentially have to survive for a long time, and you maybe lose points for shooting down the Concord Dawn guys. Yeah, basically.
Oh, well, it was actually pretty cool. So they took Hera and put her in an A-wing.
Right, of course.
And they had Sabine in an A-wing, and then 2 generic A-wing pilots. And then basically they put a satellite token in the middle. And the idea was the A-wings had to get to within range 1 of the satellite token, and they couldn't fire at all at the protectorates until they got into the center. And then there was Fenn Rau and 2 the mid-PS generic Concord protectorates.
Right.
And basically they had full range. They could shoot and everything. But the rebels couldn't fire at all until they got within range 1 and said, well, we tried to get into their space to talk to them, and they won't listen. Now we can then there was then after they do that, they're allowed to shoot back, but their main goal is basically to get ships off the board. Then they have to stay alive for, I think it was a random number of turns or so many turns, and at that point you rolled a 6-sided die, and that was where the exit point was. You didn't know, but after like 4 turns after getting to the middle, a random exit point, jump point showed up, and you had to fly off that edge of the board. So it was pretty cool because you couldn't game it. You had to kind of engage and survive. It didn't matter if you shot them down so much as long as you had at least one ship surviving and get off the board.
Yeah.
And that
sounds good.
It was a pretty cool and interesting mechanic, and he did it for his kids, which are kids, but he had a good time with it.
So I'll put the Shuttle Tydirium disclaimer on everything Jim just said, because we probably got it totally wrong. So Steve, we're sorry, but it looks totally awesome. I'm looking forward to reading his write up. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool. All right. So J-Bot, do you want to talk about what we've been doing lately?
I can for a little bit. We have been, we have been recently buried in kind of Gen Con prep, and some of the guys at the store were like, we're kind of tired of Gen Con prep, and they wanted to do some other stuff, and so we pulled out kind of old reliable of HotAC. We dragged that out and decided to restart again.
Yeah.
Because nobody could really remember, and some people had forgotten their ships or their ship cards, and so we just restarted HotAC.
Well, can I even? I'll just say, I'm sorry, I know I asked you to say it, but we get kind of forced with the podcast coming out once a week. We get really pigeonholed into having to play certain things, like the TIE Punisher mission, or prep for Gen Con, or we're going to talk about mission X. So we don't actually get a lot of choice to actually figure out, like, I don't remember the last time I even just played a generic 100-point versus 100-point game. I mean, it's been months since I've done that.
Yeah, somebody saw me playing one of. Yeah, somebody saw me playing one of those at the store the other day. Like, when did you play 106? I was like, well, this is casual for me now, playing 106 games. It used to be non-106. Now 106 is casual.
And so just even getting the time to play like something what we want just because we want to do it is actually kind of hard. So, and this was, I think, J-Bot's like, I'm, with, I think, Punisher Jason, we're like, I'm sick of everything else. I want to actually play some HotAC. So go on. I'm sorry to.
Yeah. So I've, for all the talk we've done of HotAC, I've still only ever played the first rank of missions, like the first tier. And even I think one or two of those I haven't got a chance to play. So I'm always like up for getting to play it. But we decided to start over. And as always happens in these things, like no one's interested in it until Jim and I, and in our case, Jason, are like, let's play HotAC. And as soon as we start piling this stuff out, half the people there are like, oh, I want to play too. So instead of a 4-player game, which should take, an hour, maybe 90 minutes, we always end up in a 6-player game. And they take like 3.5 hours. So, so even still, we barely get anything done. So we started over. I think our first mission, everybody ran an X-Wing. Because I know I was running one, Jim's running one.
Was there like one Y-Wing, or did he show up like another night?
Yeah, that was the second mission. So
okay.
We ran through the first one. I hate to say we, since I got shot down in like turn 3, because all of the interceptors popped in right beside my ship. And Jason one-shot me. He just, there's all crits, and I blanked out on my dice, which is normal.
I'm not allowed to roll for the Imperials anymore.
Yeah, he's not really allowed to roll for Imperials at all now.
For anything.
So they flew through the rest of the first mission, and it was a bit of a bloodbath, I have to admit. Like, that first mission, like, we got tore up pretty good.
That was the roughest I've ever done it.
Yeah, just trying to survive. Instead of, yeah, man, woohoo, just flying through and killing TIE fighters, it was, oh God, can we make it to turn 10 or turn 12, which I think was the goal. It was just everybody scatter. We had no plan. So we come into the second mission we did was the minefield. And I'm actually going to get that one up on YouTube, or at least a piece of it, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, the first half of it, because we did record it. The first mission didn't record very well, so I haven't posted that. So we did the minefield next, and the quick and dirty of this is we had a slightly different ship makeup. We had 2 newer players who took Y-Wings with TLTs, and I don't remember what their astromechs were, unfortunately. Then we had Jason, myself, Jim, and the son of one of the other guys all flying X-Wings. And we did a really bad job, but we actually survived. We completed the mission, but it came down to, if anybody's familiar with the minefield mission, it's a whole bunch, I don't know, 15, 20 mines out on the table. Some bombers are coming in. They'll replace mines if one or more have gotten destroyed, they'll replace them until you kill them under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
So, like, we did a really bad job of attacking those bombers. So they just kept spitting out bombs. And I added a kill mark thing to my sheet for how many I was killing.
How many mines?
It was like how many mines I had killed in this game. And I think it was 6 or 7. And we still barely got enough through this. But hopefully I can get it to show well on the thing. We had some amazing, like I was at one hull point and got shot at by 4 TIE fighters, the elite bomber that gets dumped in, and I think one other one all in the same turn, and somehow survived. I was like, that was the one time my dice kept it in there. Everybody's like, oh, J-Bot's dead. He's got one hull point right in the middle of all of this. Everything was pointed at me, and somehow flew out of it like, woohoo! That's the explosions going off behind me as I run through it.
Now that's pod racing.
Yeah, and it got so bad that it was like the last 2 turns, because you have to get your number of mines under number of players. We were just flying through mines, like we got to get through, right. Just like warping through mine clusters, because it was our only chance. Like just wound and take
shields. I'll fly through this one. I'll take the hits and then fire at that one.
So we lost Jim in that one, and I don't want to give all the details away, but we lost Jim in that one. I think everybody else survived somehow with like one hull point, smoking and flying off in the distance. The next one we did was the second piece of that minefield. So this is literally the first time I've ever done a second tier mission, and we're really low pilot. We're all pilot skill 3s, or most of us are pilot skill 3s. We still had some pilot skill 2s. Yeah. And we did that mission with the Rebel transport, how it has to build its hyperdrive. You guys were mentioning this earlier, and then escape. And I like to take credit for this. We made a change because Jim was the first person to hit level or pilot skill 3, so he became squad leader for that minefield mission. And then I went up to pilot skill 3, and I'm like, no, I'm the leader, dadgummit. So Jim's character, Starscream.
Yeah, Starscream is my handle.
Spent the whole time, no, I'm in charge.
I like I should be squad leader.
So awesome. I like to take credit because we, although it's not real, but I like to take credit because we just obliterated them on that next one. I mean, the ship jumped out and as early as it could almost.
Oh yeah, we did really well.
Yeah, we did really well. And then the third mission we did, we actually got it done in like an hour and a half with 6 players. That's how well we did on it. And then we did the Hawk mission where you have to protect the Hawk that's kind of crippled, and you got to get it worked up. And I laugh at that one because we succeeded the first time through with 6 players on that mission, and I joked with them because Jim kept telling me how to fly the Hawk, and I'm like, dadgummit, Hawk, I'm the Hawk the Slayer. I know what the hell I'm doing with the Hawk. And every time he'd tell me to do something and I would listen to him, it would go wrong. And so I finally said, I'm taking over the helm of this damn thing, and you guys could, just deal with it. And I think it ended up getting Jim killed at the end of the mission and me killed at the end of the mission, but the Hawk survived. So that was the.
Well, yeah, you also did it where I told you what I was doing. I was following the Hawk to try to take the shots from people, and I told you what I was doing, and then
I changed what I was doing with the Hawk.
And then you changed, but you didn't tell me, so I ended up bumping the Hawk. Had no actions and totally got shot down. I was like, damn it, why did you tell me? You knew what I was doing. He's like,
well, my excuse was everybody else knew what I was doing. Jim was too busy dreaming about shooting up stuff, and he just missed the order.
No, one or two guys on your side of the table knew.
But yeah, what's funny about it is it's been a lot of fun. And I know we mentioned it like crazy in the early days of the podcast, but it really is a great way to break away from kind of the monotony of 106 or whatever. If you've gotten yourself into a rut just testing a mission or running the same thing over and over for some reason, it's a great way to get away from it, because it gets everybody on the same table. So if somebody's got really bad dice and they're really getting frustrated with the game, sometimes it is good to just throw HotAC out there to kind of break that hatred that they're building up, that kind of animosity.
Yeah, the frustration. Like, I haven't won a game in so long. Well, it's less about, because this is more co-op. It's not like me versus you. Right. Ha ha ha. I just stomped you. But it's we're together. We're a team.
Yeah. So for me, we've been having fun with that. And I don't want to go into crazy detail on this stuff, but I'll give you the example of something I randomly stumbled across. And Jim had to help me out a little bit because I wasn't even familiar with the pilot. But just out of fun with my X-Wing, I put M9G8, the astromech on it, which is if you're declared the target of an attack, you can target lock friendly ships, or the enemy, and let them re-roll or force them to re-roll one of their attack dice when they're attacking. So I've used that like crazy, and we forgot to give me the what is that called, the experience point for aiding someone. Yeah, assist.
Assist.
So for like the first 2 games, we forgot to give me the assist experience for helping people with this. Although it's not written in the game because N9G8 came out after it. It makes sense. I gave you this to re-roll and you went from a blank to a hit. Hey, that's an assist. Or vice versa if I'm making a defender do it or making like a TIE fighter do it. And then the first thing I took when I got to Pilot Skill 3 was Tarn Missing, which is anytime you're declared the target of an attack, you can target lock the person who's attacking you. So I can give my target lock to a friendly ship, for example, let him roll and hopefully help his attack. And if I'm the one that's getting shot at, or I can plan ahead knowing if I'm going to get shot at, I can just, oh, look, that bank of 4 TIE fighters is going to shoot at me. Ooh, I'm target locking the first one. It shoots. I can adjust its dice. Target lock the second one as it declares, et cetera, et cetera.
Adjust its dice.
Right. Yeah. Which kept me alive for a very long time in some of those missions. It's not it's not a foolproof way of staying alive, but it can be pretty powerful just getting that adjustment on everything. So as the game evolves, as more expansions, more waves come out, HotAC just it gets more and more kind of intricate with the crazy combinations you can come up with that you can't play in the regular game. So I think that's what a lot of us love, is that thought kind of idea, that theory. What's the game? Theory crafting that exists out there for the game. That, oh, look at this. This is a combination you could never make possible in a real game, and just see what crazy stuff you can come up with. So
right, like little things like Inspiring Recruit in HotAC is pretty good, and just a number of different things you could do.
Yeah,
just
the only thing
new stuff.
Yeah, somebody mentioned it on the Facebook page too. The one thing this is kind of one of the hot buttons for me. If anybody just happened to notice our YouTube video recently, the 0 point like pilot skills. Hey, look, I just hit, my PS3, right? So I just upgraded my pilot to PS3. You don't have to spend that double points. You don't have to save up. There are 0 point pilot upgrades out there now, or EPTs out there now, that, hey, look, I'm putting a 0 point EPT on myself to make myself pilot skill 4 for a while. It's free. I can just do this.
Right.
And it doesn't give me any bonus other than I'm suddenly pilot skill 4 until I can save up enough experience to, or I can do the other one whose name I can't think of, but it comes with a condition card. Like it's 0 points. I might as well get it if I'm pilot skill 3. I might as well always have something there.
Right. Because I didn't realize for the longest time that you could replace your EPTs with other ones. I thought it was once you pick, that's what you've got, and so, you get a 0 point and put it in, and then replace it when you buy the points for something else. So yeah. So there's nothing to hurt you from taking like a score to settle, for example. So if you need to really hit that bomber in one of those missions, hey, I'm pilot skill 3, might as well take a score to settle because it's free. It's a 0 point upgrade. And it can come in really handy in that one mission until you get enough experience to go to the next one. So every wave that comes out makes HotAC that more kind of intricate and in depth and fun to kind of think your way around. So yeah.
I feel like it's going to be one of those things that we're going to keep coming back to.
I just wish he would make more missions, but I understand
the Imperial side is what everybody wants, and I understand that's a bear. So
yeah,
that would be. I'm actually curious to see that come to fruition someday.
Yeah. Cool. So at this point, I will say, wait, for my HotAC character, it was one game I think it was the very first mission, I rolled so many eyeballs when I didn't have a focus token, like when attacking, so often that I finally, like my first EPT is like, I'm getting expertise, darn it, finally something besides Predator. And then I ended up getting shot down, and I rolled lose your highest upgrade EPT. And I was like, dang it! I was like 8 points for that.
He apparently banged his head as he ejected, and He forgot how to focus.
Right, and then I only had enough points to buy Predator, so I was like, I'm back to Predator. All right.
Yeah, I was making fun of him. I was like, I could see him between mission 1 and mission 2, like, hey man, you want to go to the club or the cantina? And he's just in his bunk staring at a wall, like a dot on the wall. No, I must stay focused, like the whole time. I guess that's how you get expertise. That way it just becomes second nature. You just stare at a point on the wall for hours and hours.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the sim all the time, man.
Play that video game.
Right. But yeah, so I've had a lot of fun with it too, and it's just been neat to go back to that. We just, because I kind of also agree, we've been slave to having to play various missions and stuff. So yeah, cool. All right, now we also decided to go ahead and do a whole bunch of B teams for each other. We just wanted to run a bunch of B teams and just kind of say what's been bouncing around the back of our heads for a while. We thought that'd be a lot of fun. So
a while, for a while, what?
well, some of us. But
Okay.
Biff, let's go with you since you're critical. Let's go straight to your B team. So wait, J-Bot, could you initiate a B team segment?
Watch it, you've got one on your tail. Yes, I can hold it. Hold on! No.
All right, so Biff, go ahead and tell us about your B team you've got going on.
Okay, I went completely off the rails as far as my B team. I think I'm probably bending the rules, but hey, we're casual, right? So every good squad list, or I'm sorry, every good list needs a name, right? You got to name these things. So I am channeling the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. This is a no focus for you list. So
all right,
it's a 2-ship list. I am running with I know. So these guys are going to be loaded up to the hilt because I'm burning all 100 points. My first ship is an interceptor. I'm running with Karner Jax as the pilot. So he's a pilot skill 8, and he's loaded up with Opportunist, of course, the Royal Guard tie, Mata title, and then running with the auto thrusters and hull upgrade. Yeah, the auto includes. So yeah, I've got those 2 auto includes, and then I threw in a hull upgrade because in reality I had 3 points when this was all over with, and I'm like, let's just try and have Karner stick around a little while longer. So then that's kind of maybe a little bit on the typical side, I suppose, with Karner Jax. But for my second ship, this is where I went completely off the rails, and I chose an epic ship to bring into this 100-point match, just because I've kind of always wanted to do this and see how it works out. So I elected to go with...
If the game's balanced, I see no reason why you can't do that.
Exactly. Gonzati. I chose the Gonzati.
Gozanti?
To fly with in the Interceptor. What's that?
The Gozanti?
Sure. The Gozanti.
Gozanti.
Whatever.
I don't know. Is there...
Gozanti.
Gozanti or Gozanti is what they'll say on Rebels.
Oh, I'm going to have to go back and listen. I have to become one with the canon.
Go on,
so
go
he's
on.
He's a 40-pointer to start off with. I think 40-pointer to start off with. So I added several things to this ship. I put the targeting coordinator on, the shield technician. As far as a hard point, I went with the dual laser turret. In cargo, I dropped in the comms booster. I chose the suppressor title, which gives him 2 energy as far as his energy limit. So we're up to 6 now instead of the 4 that it starts with. And then the last thing I added as far as a modification, I added automated protocols, but I think that might not be the right choice. But when I talk about this list a little bit, I'll touch upon that.
All right.
So my whole idea and the whole and this, going back to the title, the no focus for you, that's a little simplification of the strategy that I'm trying to go with. But when I was reviewing all the ships and trying to think of what would be a real nice effect to try to build stuff around, was this whole notion of being able to strip like target locks, focus, and evade from my opponent, stripping them or preventing them from being able to be used. So Karner, his native ability, so ships at range 1 cannot perform focus or evade actions, nor can they spend those things. And on the Gonzati, there is the where is it now? The suppressor title. After you acquire a target lock in an enemy ship, you can remove 1 focus, 1 evade, or 1 blue target lock token from that ship. So my idea here is to have these 2 ships kind of work in concert such that I can hopefully kind of, I'll say, blank out the enemy target, and hopefully both Karnor and the Gonzati would be able to make an attack on that poor, now totally defenseless enemy, and we can start really ripping through my opponent's list slowly but surely over time. And then there's a couple of other little things that are kind of in play where the Gonzati is going to be going through a lot of energy. That whole, I suppose, shield technician and automated protocols, such that in automated protocols, since I'm going to be target locking a bunch of enemy ships in order to get the whole peeling off tokens, it's not a recover or reinforce. So automated protocols lets me spend an energy to perform a free recover or reinforce. So my notion here is now I can get a really heavy, solid defensive ability with the Gonzati, whether it be recharging the shields or giving myself the extra defense that the reinforce option provides.
Okay, I have one thing to say.
Yes.
You gotta repeat this with me. Go.
Zon.
T.
Gozanti.
Gozanti.
Okay. So you went back into the
It's
Star
all you've
Wars
been hearing,
dictionary?
hasn't it, Jim? You've only been hearing Gonzati.
Yeah. I'm only hearing Gozanti. I'm like, all right, now repeat everything you just said.
Gozanti.
Gozanti. Gozan. There's an N there. Zanti. You're saying Gozati, like it's an Italian meal. Gozati.
Yeah, it's probably
Gonzati.
It's probably my fine Wisconsin roots coming out there. We like to.
No, I'm sorry.
Dialect.
I'm trying not to get distracted. Like, stay on target.
You failed. You failed with your focusing.
All right. Well, that was another podcast. It's like me with as Morgan. Touche. All right.
Around.
Yeah.
So I think I don't really have to. I don't think I have to get too terribly far into this anymore. My concern is with a lot of the abilities that are on the Gozanti cruiser, he's becoming kind of an energy sink in that a lot of the abilities that I have built onto the cruiser require energy. And when you look at his maneuver dial, if he does a 1 straight, he can generate 3 energy. But when I look at the stuff I've loaded up on him, the targeting coordinator, I have to spend an energy. Comms booster, I have to spend an energy. Automated protocols, I have to spend energy. So it's kind of like in quick order, I can't even put energy onto the hard point to make any attacks. So in thinking about that a little bit, I thought maybe what I need to do is drop the automated protocols, which hurts me defensively, in order to put in the optimized generators such that when I allocate energy off to my hard point, I'm gaining 2.
So you can then spend, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where I would want to try it. try it both ways, see how it plays out, and kind of go from there. So that's it. Now you guys can start throwing daggers and stuff at it.
No, I like it. I really like the suppressor. I'm surprised you didn't go for Grand Moff Tarkin just for further.
For focus action stuff.
Because we were playing the Punisher mission, and that was what it was, the suppressor with, Grand Moff Tarkin, and they would just do that same thing, like boom, 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 removing focus tokens and target locks.
And the Tarkin lets you give the focus token to someone, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, you can do either. So you can either take it from someone else or give it to one of your, ships. So, but if you could work in even having Tarkin on there, you could remove even more focus tokens from someone.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I would say. Not that that's bad what you've got.
Just things to play with.
Yeah, I'd probably go ahead and change the modification. Yeah, the optimized generators to get more energy on that. But I think it's pretty cool. I like it. Also, maybe try to think of something like HotAC Copilot, just in case they somehow happen to have a focus token. You can then get rid of it for them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm making little notes. This will be something I'm going to try in the future.
I'm all in favor of, like, there shouldn't be, to me, a difference between epic play and like standard. If you can fit the ship in there for 100 points, like, then play it, because there's no difference as far as people are concerned between epic and standard for forcing you to have an epic ship in an epic quote unquote game. So why can't I go the other way? I mean, I might not be the most effective, but at least it's still playing by the rules of 100 points. So I'm all in favor of that.
I have to say, you can always tell when someone's not a casual gamer, they're a tournament gamer, then they play one of these other unique missions or whatever, or epic, because there have been a number of threads on FFG where people have played epic, and their epic list is like one epic ship, and then they've got like 4 to 5 large base ships or aces or ace large base ships, and that's their epic list. And I'm like, man, I would just max out on like Carax fighters or X-wings or something and rip that apart, because then they play and then those other guys end up losing because all they do is put all their spare points into a few aces. Like, oh, I have 150 points. I'm gonna get these 5 awesome aces in a list. That'll be so cool to have them in a list. And I'm like, until the other guy, maxes out on generics and chews you to pieces.
Yeah, just 300 points or, whatever it is, 60 points worth of epic ship like you did, and then 240 points of just generic swarm. Just TIE swarm and interceptor swarm and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't even have to go too crazy, but it's like you can rip someone up if they happen to take, all these named guys in an epic game. I'm like, ooh, bad choice.
Yeah, I could only imagine the bumpage that would go on with a whole bunch of academies. What can you get? 12? 8 or 12 is the most you're allowed on the table?
12 on the table.
Yeah, so it's like I could get 8 academy ties or 12 academy ties on there and not even use half my points. Aren't they like 12 points apiece?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, look, there's 12 academy ties. Good luck. Good luck, like, not bumping into these guys and lining myself up with all of my other generics, like generic interceptors or that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think you can definitely tell the difference between the kind of tournament mindset and, I guess, the classic 106 tournament guy trying to play epic versus somebody who's, like, got a bigger world view.
Right. It's like Phil when I can't remember who it was, said they tried that one 3-player mission that I love, and
Conflict
one person
interest, I think. Or
Honor Among Thieves.
Yeah.
And the Imperial took like Hal Runner and a whole crap ton of TIE fighters, and then there was some maxed out defenders, and then the Scum person took for their like a whole bunch of points. They took 3 Brobots and like a bunch of junk, and they got wiped real fast. I'm like, yeah, that mission with 3 Brobots is all that you have? Are you nuts? Like, you're gonna get killed.
Yeah, the standard tournament logic doesn't. I mean, standard tournament play, they haven't really built for above 100 points. You know, it's often like the standard tournament builds are often combos custom built for that point range, and when you just add another ace ship on top of that, it doesn't always work out like that. It doesn't work out well because the space hasn't gotten bigger for the number of ships you have, so you have less room to maneuver, etc., etc. There's a bunch of problems that crop up.
Yeah. Cool. So Phil, do you want to go into your B team?
Sure. I call this B team the Sickening.
Not the Seekening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty much what's going on here is I'm trying to leverage the new Seeks into something that would be cool and fun to play on a table. So I've got the first one is Quinjast. All these have a tiny mind link. Quinjast, and so that's the Seek where you essentially get the free reloads on your torpedo missiles. So heavy Seek interceptor, of course, guidance chips, and homing missiles. And I like homing missiles on this Seek because if you don't spend the target lock during your attack, you don't have to spend that target lock to shoot the missiles. So you can fire round after round.
Right.
And you just keep using that homing missile.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Homing missile is kind of expensive, though. So
it is.
The next one I have here is Inaldra. That's the Pilot Skill 3 Seek, where you can spend a shield to reroll any amount of dice. And I've just got that Seek in a light Seek interceptor and a tiny mind link. Kind of a cheap but pretty effective, I think, platform there. So it's only 14 points for Pilot Skill 3 with a tiny mind link and the ability.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Then I've got Genesis Red. That's the big bad.
Wait. Say it, J-Bot.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
That's
Genesis Red.
Do what now?
Genesis Red.
Yeah.
This summer.
Yeah. Coming this summer to a theater near you. Genesis Red.
That's awesome. I love it. Oh, okay. Go on. I'm sorry. Carry on.
So he's got a tiny mind link, he's got heavy Seek, and he's got ion cannon. And I think that's it for him. Yeah. And then the last one is Sarisu, again with a tiny mind link and with a light Seek interceptor. So the idea here is that you have your squad of 4 Seeks running with Sarisu, and maybe Quinjast running on the flanks, doing her or his. I don't know. Is that a him or her?
Her.
Whatever. Her. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe she can be doing some flanking with the homing missiles. Hopefully, getting in, and because she's the most powerful hitter out of this whole group. So you don't want her to be focused down in the first pass. So you want to either force them to ignore all the rest of your guys to attack her, or keep her alive for that first couple rounds or so to get some good homing missile damage in. Because everyone else doesn't really have heavy attack. Genesis Red hopefully should be able to use his ion cannon to set up ships for homing missile hits. That's kind of why that's there. So the idea is a hit with the ion cannon. And Genesis Red's ability, I think we touched on it, is after you acquire a target lock, you assign focus and evade tokens to your ship until you have the same number of each token as the locked ship. So you can really token stack on him like that. You can even pick up a focus token for the rest of your guys through MindLink. That might be pretty cool.
You'd be passing around more focus tokens than I think Biff would be able to suppress.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I always find it hard to when I'm using a missile like the homing missile that's the range 2 to 3. I always find that to be very difficult in trying to judge, not only what is the opponent going to do from their movement, but then what am I going to do to where I'm not outside 3, but not inside 1. So the idea of using an ion cannon to eliminate half of that equation is a good thing. So from my point of view, yes.
Yeah, and I would expect people to be shooting at Sarisu first in that clump. Formation of 4 interceptors. Hopefully underestimating the utility of the ion cannon, as I think many people probably do.
Yeah.
And then just coming in and clubbing with that homing missile. And, at that point, whenever you're shooting that homing missile, you should almost always have a target lock and focus from a tiny MindLink.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Now, one thing I'll say is when a tiny MindLink first came out, it was kind of dismissed by a lot of the tournament guys. No one really used it much, but nowadays it's considered. I'm sure there's people out there going, I thought this was a B team.
Tiny MindLink. Tiny MindLink.
That's the most broken thing now. Nerf a tiny MindLink.
A tiny MindLink is only overpowered in the Paratani build, I feel. Otherwise, other people were experimenting with a tiny MindLink for ages before they found a build that worked for it.
Yeah.
So, bite me.
That tells how you really feel. All right. So should we now go over to JBot?
Well, I didn't really come up with a fancy title for my list. I don't normally do that. I guess that's part of half the fun, I guess, is coming up with a name list or a name for your list before you make it.
I'm sure the listeners will actually come up with one for you.
Oh, no. I thought about this for a few minutes here, and I think the closest I can come up with is Michael Bay Presents Star Wars. That's what I'm going to go with. So I have 2 identical Warden Squad K-Wings. Those are the PS2 ones. And they're identically equipped with Bombardier. That's the 1-point crew that lets you do range 2 drop of a bomb. Advanced Slam, cluster mines, and seismic bombs. So those 2 are identical and at 34 points. This will be very quick. I have a Hawk, the Rourke Hawk, which is 19 points. He's the one that lets you make a teammate a 12.
Yeah.
Pilot skill 12. I have a TLT, because why not? And I have Sabine with a proton bomb put on top of this, since she gives you the bomb slot as her crew, and put a proton bomb on this. So the goal here is all of the bombs now do 1 damage to a ship of my choice in range 1. So the goal here is lots of explosions, hence the name.
Right.
With the K-Wings, the things that I always had trouble with the K-Wings, I was pretty good at judging the distance and using the advanced slam to jump over my opponent. And with pilot skill 2s, since you're normally going to be going first, short of a few people, you get that guess. Like, okay, I just need to get that range in there right. I push to right in front of where they're going to be, since I'm probably going to move first, hop them with the advanced slam, and because the advanced slam, assuming I don't hit anything, gives me an action, I can use that action to drop like cluster mines, for example. And if I do it right, I can drop them right on top of somebody. And with this, every single one of those can detonate if I do it right and do 1 point of damage to a ship in its range 1 of that thing. So, my cluster mines went to crap, which they tend to do when I'm rolling with them, but I still got 3 damage or 2 damage to just spread around to the ships I was trying to hit.
Yeah, though doesn't Sabine work for one ship around?
Yeah, I think it's one per round.
Is it one ship? Because if it's one ship, then it gets all the cluster mines.
Well, one bomb.
No.
Yeah,
Right, but
One,
it's
like
once per round.
but is
once
it
per round.
but is it one bomb or one bomb template? Because
It's
cluster bomb.
well, you can
one
do
thing.
it once, and a cluster bomb counts as multiple bomblets.
Oh, does it count as individuals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I screwed the list up. So.
Well, no, but it's still a good idea that you can still
Yeah.
push out extra damage. It's not
me.
quite super as effective.
Yeah,
but it's
Sabine is
good.
still really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the goal here obviously is to be able to pop over people. And if I judge it wrong and end up bumping, for example, the seismics are there for the next turn. For oh no, I bumped you on my turn and screwed the range thing up. Then I'll just drop a seismic next turn with the goal being, hey, look, I dropped it right on top of where you're going to be, and it's now going to do 2 damage to at least one of the ships in that range. And then the Hawk, I think I just wanted to put it on there for fun to have a bomb on a Hawk because it's kind of not something anybody thinks about. And I had 5 points left, so I used the proton bomb instead.
Oh, I love it. I think it's cool.
So the goal here, and it would never work, but there's a lot of them with the extra munitions, which I didn't even mention. I put on both the ships.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of bombs to be had. So they can fill the table up pretty quick with those things.
Yeah, you might be flying through your own stuff. with all
Maybe.
that.
I was actually really
Yeah.
good at it when the K-Wings first came out. I had a run of probably like 3 or 4 weeks where nobody could take that list, and that was with my bad rolling with proximity mines. I got rid of that because I was rolling really bad with the clusters, so I took the proximity. But now if you drop them early, everybody just flies around them because they got so much freaking repositioning in the game. But
Yeah.
the goal was, I don't care how much repositioning you've got. There's at some point you're going to have to fly at my ship. So I can slow roll around the back, my end of the table until you commit to where your attack's going to come from. And the K-Wings are so fast with advanced slam, they can get to you, before you have a chance to do anything. It's like, oh, look, I can move 7 with 2 3s. Might be 8, but either way, I could jump ahead really, really far and set you up for the next turn since I have a really low pilot skill. So I did really, really well with it early on, and then they started adding a bunch of things that let people reposition and move around. And once people kind of figure it out, they don't keep like a swarm together. I'm going to put one of my ships on one side of the table, one of them on the other side of the table, and kind of fly in a way that you can't pick both ships off in one kind of gigantic explosion. So, but I'd like to give it another shot. Is kind of what I was going for. I'd like to put that back on the table and see if I could make it work again. And with Sabine, it might mitigate some of my own crappy dice rolling.
Oh, sounds fun.
So there you go. And
It's
Michael
cool.
Bay presents Star Wars.
It's cool. It's good stuff.
All right. So what did Jim have there?
Well, let me say, I was listening to the Kessel Run recently with they had a local league that they were doing where they had only counted really for the number of games you were playing. The more games you played, it was more of like participation. The higher you scored. Like if you did win, you did a little better. But even if you lost like 20 games, you'd still be ahead of the guy who won 5 games. And they also had each week you got bonus points if you flew one of these things in your list, and it was like week 1 was proton torpedoes, another one was an ion weapon, and then they had another one that was bombs. And just they said that the number of people that started coming out to the local stores, like their participation started to increase dramatically because people were just coming out to have fun and flying crazy stuff, and people were just having a blast just trying to play these crazy lists with various concoctions. And so you talking about those bombs just made me think about that. Just people come up with wacky lists, and it's even more fun when you've got other people doing wacky stuff too. When you've got your B team versus their B team.
Yeah.
Like the B leagues.
Those are some pretty neat ideas for that league. That's cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something to do in your local area, I'd go ahead and do that. Something like that. So you could pull different people in. Now mine isn't isn't exactly crazy or weird combos or anything, but I was really excited about the Jumpmaster to come out, and I wanted to fly Dengar, and Dengar wasn't, when everyone was projecting, wouldn't be a big thing when he was first out. It was all about the U-boats. It wasn't until Dangaroo. But I still really have not flown my Dengar much because we're so busy playing our crazy stuff that we have to play. And so I made a list with Dengar that I wanted to do, just called Raging Dengar. And of course it's Dengar with the Punishing One title and Rage, because why else would it be called Raging Dengar? Now I had to do Inspiring Recruit on him, which is relatively new. So Inspiring Recruit will help get rid of that extra stress. Then I went for R4 Agromech. After you spend a focus token, you can acquire a target lock on someone. So he's going to be getting the focus tokens from the Rage. So, and he can attack again in the same round. So basically that kind of helps with his all punch you in the face. You shoot at me, I'll punch you. Ha ha ha. And then Glitter Stem, just because I had 2 points left over. But
So question on the R4 Agromech. How useful is the target lock? Just because with Rage you'll have rerolls anyway.
Well, I guess that's true. I didn't think about that too much. I'd probably then at that point just go for Salvage Astromech.
Or Unhinged is always good.
Unhinged would be better to make things green. All the green moves.
Oh yeah, especially because you need to do a lot of greens with
with Inspiring Recruit
and
get rid of the Rage. Yeah. So Unhinged Astromech. I'll switch that out. And then I just went with 2 Black Sun Soldier Z95s to go there for blocking and for shooting purposes, and a Karax Fighter, which a Black Sun Ace. So PS5 Karax Fighter. And I had a list very similar to this, and I played against Blake in one of his sneaky tournament lists, and I did really well with it. And like that one Karax Fighter, it was a champ. He couldn't kill it. Those 2 green dice, I just kept rolling it well. Either had the focus available or whatever. And those things, they get in range 1, they will rip stuff up.
I feel like with those, with almost any Karax, one of the main advantages that you have is that people probably will underestimate it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, Karax garbage, I'll ignore it. But it has, it's got 3 attack power. If you ignore it, it can hurt you. It's like, it's a glass cannon essentially, but
it's not like Seek glass cannon. It's
not like a super glass cannon. It's on the glass cannon spectrum.
It takes a bit of effort to kill it because it's got 5 hits you got to go through. So unless you're playing like something like Fenrau or Miranda with homing missile,
it's got a higher attack value. It's got a better punch than its ability to take a punch. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
That's what I mean.
So the idea is, I'm sure that people probably ignore the Z95s and the Karaxes, and I thought about going like a bunch of Ordnance Z95s just to be mean, but I decided that I usually do Ordnance, so I'd stay away. So, and the Z95s will try to do their best to do some blockage and some such, and just if you're focusing on everything else, they can get up in your face at range 1 and fire 3 shots. They're not the most maneuverable, I'll admit, but they'll do. And that's kind of my list right there. So
cool.
Dengar runs around. Do you want to shoot at him if you're in his firing arc? Do you not want to shoot at him?
Would you consider changing out the Z95s for the light Seeks?
Yes, definitely. Probably if I got rid of the illicit. So if I dropped here, I'll just tweak it right now. If I drop,
because light Seeks will be like 12 points each.
Yes. Let me pull up Seek or M3A. Cartel Spacer, Light Seek title. Yeah, 12 points. If it leaves me 5 points left over, I could even put on... I could give the Karax a missile, or I could give an extra shield to Dengar. Something like that.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool, I'll probably go...
give the Karax the pulsed ray shielding? Do you have a mod on the Karax?
I do not, so I could give... Yeah, pulse ray shielding.
Regen.
2 points, then nice. 3 points left over For Dengar, what would I give? I could give maybe countermeasures or a whole upgrade. Countermeasures would make his agility increase by 1 for 1 round.
Right.
And if people are focusing on him, I'll pop that early. That's what I'll do, countermeasures. Yeah. So
well,
that's
nobody uses countermeasures. What the hell's wrong with you?
Actually, people were on Dangaroo, I think.
Yeah, only on Dangaroo.
I've never used it before, so yeah. Cool. But I think that's a pretty neat list. So Dengar can punish people, and if you focus on Dengar, then the rest of the list will hurt you pretty bad. I like having the Sikhs and the Karaks because they have the one hard turn. With a big ship, and once you start getting mixed around, and those other guys, it'll help to have them be able to do some knife fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think they do a better job as blockers than Z95s, just because they can barrel roll and they can do those type maneuvers. It's better to have that kind of thing. And they're, at the lightweight, with the light Sikh title, they're just as cheap.
Yeah, and I think also just for the fact of shooting at things, they will be able to get more things in their firing arc to actually just get shots off on as well.
Yeah. I know we've just kind of sidestepping a bit. Jim and his love of Sikhs. I don't know if it's something that's coming up here lately, but they had a local for International Board Game Day. They had at the store. They actually had a local tournament put on too for X-Wing. There were more Sikhs on the tables there than I thought. I wandered around. I was like, well, what are all these Sikhs that people are playing?
Really?
Yeah, and there was actually one guy who had a list. Who I'm sure it was tournament in some way, but. Like it felt like it was something purely out of Jim's mind because I'm not going to get all the details right, but it was like 3 or 4 Sikhs, like heavy Sikhs with various cannons. Like I know one of them had a heavy laser cannon, and I don't remember what the other 2 had, and a quad jumper, like the lowest level quad jumper with the tractor array, and he was actually like I think he got in the top 4 with it. I think I was just back and forth, just paying attention. But Doc played against it and was like, that thing was ruthless. Like he's like because that quad jumper, stops your, drops your agility and can put you kind of in a really bad position if it needs to. And then you have all these like Sikhs that just zip in and pew, 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 pew with crazy cannons and stuff like that and can light somebody up for a turn.
Oh yeah.
So I am kind of encouraged just walking around those tables. And this wasn't a serious tournament in terms of like, official, rankings or anything like that. It was just a local one. But, and those you tend to see, from what my experience watching them, you tend to see some more varied lists. But there wasn't like one killer list that I saw out there. Maybe there was, but there wasn't like one that 5 people were playing. And that's encouraged me because it feels like a little bit of this B team world that we get into is starting to filter itself back into the tournament, where people are like, I'm going to start trying some weird things. I'm going to start trying some alternate builds to see how they play. And I think that's how the game can stay viable. By these people that play tournaments would be well served to play our crazy casual B team lists, because you never know when we are going to come up with some combination of ships that just with some practice, and we rarely give ours because we're casual players and we have ADD when it comes to our attention on ships and lists. So we tend to scatter and we don't practice them. But I think if you're a tournament guy and you're listening to this, don't be afraid to play that crazy casual guy in the corner with his weird list with cards you never see on a tournament table, because he might show you something. He might come together with a couple of combo cards that you have never even thought of doing, that put into your list might become like, wow, this is the basis of the Dingaroo list, It's like, you never know what that's going to be. That could have been somebody's crazy B team until a tournament guy came by and said, wow, if I make this one change and this one change, it becomes a tournament list. That's really powerful. So don't look away from the crazy stuff that we do, our crazy shenanigans, because some of us might just be on the cusp of like greatness with one of these lists.
The thing is, Dengaroo is a great example because Dengaroo as a list only emerged, I think, like 4 or 5 months after all of the pieces had already been released.
Oh,
so
yeah.
all of the pieces were already all there for Dengaroo. and people, I know that some people had already sort of seen that there could be something there. Because I remember having a discussion about this on X-Wing Reddit, where you could set up that focus chain reaction, how you could ignore the downside of stress from the overclocked astromech. I think the main, and pass focus from a different ship, either through a tiny mind link or through Manaru. And I think the only I think even countermeasures was discussed, and countermeasures had never been used anywhere else, essentially, in a tournament list. I think the only piece missing from that was Lone Wolf on Dengar. Everything else was already there, but people just didn't. It took a while for people to experiment and discover it, even though that people were talking about it fairly early on.
Yeah, I do know that even Blake, Mr. Tournament Guy, like for a while was running a bunch of bombs and such, a bunch of K-Wings, and he even said, he's like, well, Jim, you're the one who really taught me how to use bombs. Your TIE Bomber list that just really was just had a field day with me a couple of games. That really got me, you showed me what bombs could do. And so I guess there's Galaxy Note 7 that was out too. I wasn't the only one, but I know at least locally some of our tournament guys who have done well at some of the open events, they have stated that they have learned from playing as dirty casuals.
Yeah, our unorthodox lists and play styles can train you better, I think, than at least for the unexpected. Hey, I'm running a tournament meta list. Well, somebody's going to show up at that tournament without one, or one that's specifically designed to beat yours that you may have never seen before. It might behoove you to run your crazy list or your meta list against one of our crazy ones just to get it. Yeah.
With an idea of how to play
differently. Yeah. It happens. You might run into somebody who just has a different tactic than you've ever seen before, and it would help you to be prepared. So don't scoff at the casual guy in the corner. Don't laugh at his list because it's not perfect. Try and learn something from it. Try and say, oh, well, that is an interesting combination I never thought of, because it could be another Dingaroo list staring you in the face that you just haven't seen yet. And no one's taken the kind of time and risk in a way to make it and play it. So,
and sometimes just when you play a crazy list, one of the things that you have is no one's played against, no one's practiced it. They don't know what to do. And so even if you just want practice to play against something unorthodox, so you're like, crap, I've got to come up with a different way to play my list against something weird out there.
Yeah, that was one of the big strengths of early Dengaroo, is that people had never really seen anything like it.
Yeah. And so you might just win one event by coming out with the next thing, and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah. All you have to do is discover the next great X-Wing list.
Yeah.
I mean, we're giving you great lists all the time.
Yeah, clearly all these were gold.
You just need the one tweak here or there, or be a better pilot or better dice roller than the rest of us.
Get good.
Yeah, just get good. I think is what one of the local guys does.
All right.
Cool. So with that, are we about done with this?
I think we're coming up on Endor.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Any last parting words, Phil? You got anything to say?
No.
What about you, Biff?
I would say do a push on the Facebook page. Not the Facebook page. I'm sorry, the YouTube channel. A lot of content getting out there. JBot's been pushing hard on the AOR campaign, as well as pumping out our podcasts that have been done in the past. And you got the Biff's Bit, and those are out there. And the ISD content. JBot, you need to drop ISD number 2 out there. We got some people clamoring.
People already clamoring for it. Yeah, I need to. I got distracted this week. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we used to have a life.
Yeah, I got totally distracted this week with my Hitler one. So
funny.
I kind of lost the plot this week. I was like, I'll just post some old stuff because I was spending so much time cackling at that one that I couldn't focus on anything else. So
Yeah, if you haven't checked that out, check the Facebook page out.
Yeah, the old German movie about Hitler and his bunker. Yeah, so people have always gone out and put their own subtitles. J-Bot did one. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a few people come up to me at the store yesterday, just like I was dying laughing. I still look at it every couple of days because it's so stupid. So, but it wrote itself. I mean, I had half a mind to just take one of my old rants and just subtitle it into the thing.
Yeah.
Did pretty well.
Yeah.
That was well done. Well done.
Oh, very funny. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Thanks a lot for listening to this particular episode of the Shuttle Tydirium podcast, and we will shuttle you again next week. All right, everybody. Have a good one.